Hello, great people. Tigran Gambaryan, one of the executive of Binance, the cryptocurrency firm that was arrested in Nigeria, and after the intervention of the US government, he was released from prison, has been making some staggering revelation. He has accused 3 House of Representative members of asking for a bribe of 150 million US dollars. He has also accused the federal government of Nigeria of trying to access the data illegitimately for the purpose of witch hunting the opposition. He has accused the DSS. He has accused the National Security Advisor, Ribabu. He made a lot of staggering revelation that I'll be reading to you in a moment. Then we'll be analyzing the associated issues in between.
In terms of corruption, Nigeria has a reputation, as you understand very well, for very massive corruption.
Who recall that Tigran Gambaryan was arrested alongside his fellow executive, Nadim Anjarwalla. Now, Nadim Anjarwalla, when he was arrested, by miraculous means, got escaped from prison. And you might be wondering as well that, was this guy released, or were there some, games that were played that led to his escape? But the report that we heard was that Nadim Anjarwalla escaped from prison. Nadim Anjarwalla is 37 years old. Now, it was after that the US government, during the administration of Joe Biden, now began to interface with the Nigerian government, and they were able to use diplomatic means to secure the release of Tigran Gambaryan. It is the Tigran Gambaryan that the Nigerian government released based on the intervention of the US government that is now making this staggering revelation. Now, let us go into what Tigran Gambaryan said. Now, you can see it on your screen. It says some unknown facts. You can read the rest in the Wired article and the NPR story. This is where it gets interesting. It says the DSS was involved in the House of Representatives matter. I'm reading Tigran Gambaryan. We met with them at their office on Friday, January 5, 2024, as a prerequisite to our meeting with the House of Representatives. They alluded to the fact that we had to comply. Listen to that. They alluded to the fact that we had to comply with whatever the House members instructed us to do. Now, after reading this first paragraph, let me point out something from it before I go to the second paragraph. Now, it said they alluded to the fact that we had to comply with whatever the House members instructed us to do. Yes, if the House of Representatives summons you and they are conducting an investigation, whatever they ask you to do that can help the cause of investigation to unravel the mystery behind what is being investigated to the benefit of Nigerian people must be complied with. So it is on legitimate grounds, not that they will ask you to go and pay $150 million, then you go and pay it. No. So the DSS, I think, should have passed the message rightly that you are to do whatever they ask you to do, as lawyers will say, within the ambit of the law. So I think that within the ambit of the law that is missing, I've left it blank in such a way that if the House of Representative member tell you to go and jump into the well, will you go and jump into the well just because they ask you to go and jump into the well? So I think the caveat should have been put that within the ambit of the law. Now, let us go to the next paragraph, which is where it is getting interesting. Remember, the Binance executive, Tigran Gambaryan, implicated Nigerian government, the DSS, National Security Advisor, Ribabu, and 3 House of Representative member. Follow me in this reading. Now, paragraph 2. At the House meeting, there were 3 members present. 2 of them were Peter Akpanke and Philip Agbese, both working under the leadership of Ginger Obina Onwusibe. There was a 3 House member, but there was a 3rd House member, apologies, but I don't recall his name. They set up fake cameras and media to make the meeting appear official, but the cameras weren't even plugged in. As you may already know, this ended with them asking for a $150 million bribe paid in cryptocurrency into their personal wallet, a Mickey Mouse operation at its best. Now, let us point out some things from this particular paragraph, which is that if you look at it, you will see that the Binance executive, Tigran Gambaryan, said that they requested for $150 million bribe. But then the Nigerian government arrested Tigran Gambaryan and Nadim Anjarwalla and were prosecuting them for money laundering amounting to 35 million US dollars. So if you are being prosecuted, if you are being investigated for a financial crime of about 35 million US dollars, how will the people investigating you, how will the parastatal agencies of government now be demanding for 150 million US dollars? We need to identify that, in the sense that they're investigating you for 35 million US dollars, but now you are saying that it is that they're asking you for a $150 million bribe. That sounds a bit absurd in the true sense of it. Now, Tigran Gambayan said they set up fake cameras and media to make the meeting appear official. While they were investigating the Binance executive, did Tigran Gambayan go to each camera to see whether it was plugged or not? How did he know that the cameras were not plugged? How was he able to identify? Because you are coming in for a probe, and when you get to the meeting, were you investigating the cameras to make sure that they were not plugged? So those are some of the loopholes that I'm able to identify in Tigran Gambayan's statement. And if you look at it, he said the set of fake and the cameras were not even plugged in. So if you look at all these things, I'm not saying that the House member did not ask for any kind of kickbacks. We are all Nigerians. We know the way some of these things works. Now, assuming but not considering that they asked for kickbacks, could it have been to the tune of $150 million when what they are investigating you for is $35 million? Now to Nuhu Ribadu. The paragraph about Nuhu Ribadu said, at Nuhu Ribadu invited us to the official meeting and walked through Saad Abubakar. Another key figure in this situation was Adama Beloji. Adama Beloji. Ogunjobi was just a pawn. They used him too. This was a sold. I think there's some error in his writing. Let me just say this was sold as a friendly meeting with the NSA, the head of SEC, that's Security Exchange Commission, and the CBN governor, and included the discussion of the bribe that was solicited by the House of Representatives. So that means that the Nuhu Ribadu, the National Security Advisor, was also aware that the House of Representative members allegedly solicited bribe. Now, let's continue. This is where it gets interesting. The $26 billion figure they kept pushing publicly as some mystery money escaping Nigeria is complete BS. That's bullshit. So, wait, there's something conflicting about these things, which is that they said they're investigating him for 35 million US dollars. But then there's another 26 billion US dollars, which is, I think, the whole of transaction that Binance has done while they were in Nigeria is the 26 billion US dollar. But you want to imagine, there are other cryptocurrency firms in Nigeria. There are other financial institutions in Nigeria. So if Binance alone could have done a transaction amounting to 26 billion US dollars, what transaction is remaining for GTB, Access Bank, UBA, and other financial institutions in Nigeria? Now, let's continue reading. This information was provided in response to their request and was simply cumulative trade data for Nigerians on the platform. This money didn't leave Nigeria. It was just people buying and selling crypto. You see, now I didn't read it to this level before I assert that perhaps it is the money of all the transactions that have been made when they were investigated that amounts to 26 billion US dollar. But government was investigating Binance, which involving Tigran Gambayan and Najim Anjawala for a fraud of 35 million US dollars. Now I think it seems clear. It says this money did not leave Nigeria. It was just people buying and selling crypto. For example, if you trade $100 100 times, that's $10,000 in trade volume. But in reality, you only used $100. Again, just another example of them lying up to cover their BS investigation. That's bullshit investigation. Now, they lied that Nadim, that's another paragraph, escaped during mock prayers. In reality, he returned and escaped afterward. I don't know exactly how he managed to flee. He emailed me in November, but we haven't discussed the details of his escape. It's possible he paid someone off, but I have no proof. So okay, let me finish the paragraph first. If Beloji had simply checked his passport for a visa, he would have realized that Nadim did not use that passport to travel to Nigeria. Now, imagine that a foreigner is asserting that somebody escaped Nigeria and may have bribed 1 or 2 people. You see that this fallbacks to my earlier assertion that the guy miraculously, in quote, disappeared from Nigeria. Now, another paragraph, they sent a letter to the US Embassy and the British High Commission falsely claiming that we were voluntarily participating in strategic talks. That was a blatant lie. Sometimes it feels bad when you are reading the account of a foreigner and that foreigner is saying that your government is doing what? Blatantly lying. That is one of the highest ridicule that can befall a government. Now, let's continue reading. Nadim didn't escape lawful detention. We were being held illegally. Beloji even admitted that he would fabricate evidence to obtain a court order to detain us for 14 days. Once the court order expired, they were unable to get an extension from the judge. At that point, they continued holding us illegally and had no justification for doing so. Let me say something about this paragraph. If they are holding you illegally, that is not a condition for you to escape. Then you need to approach the court to get an order of court ordering your release from detention, having justified to the court that they were holding you illegally. Just to point that out. Now, let's go to another paragraph. We still have just 2 paragraphs to go. I'm trying to make this video as short as possible, but this reading, is quite a long reading. Please bear with me. Now, it says, there was a lot of noise using Interpol to capture Nadim. As someone who has been involved in multiple extradition cases, I can confidently say that this was a joke. Extradition is a lengthy legal process, and no rational judge in Kenya or wherever would ever approve extradition for someone who escaped illegal detention at the hands of rogue law enforcement, especially when that detention involved holding employees hostage to pressure their employer. All noise. Now, look at something. He says he made a statement, a rogue law enforcement. That is another insult, that if a foreigner is giving account of what happened in Nigeria and that foreigner is calling our law enforcement rogue, that is another insult and a slap on Nigeria. So if you look at these things, the guy was just throwing shades at Nigeria. And that is why you may want to think that is the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu hasty in releasing this guy after all, because now it fires a shot at the Nigerian government, which is the last paragraph. They try to use us to violate international privacy law by demanding user data on all Nigerians to target opposition members, allegedly manipulating the price of the Naira. However, they all knew that Naira's devaluation was a direct result of Tinubu's monetary policy, which depegged the Naira from the dollar. I'm not saying this policy decision was wrong, but everyone understood that removing government intervention would lead to extreme devaluation. Instead of acknowledging this, they use Binance as a scapegoat. Now, the guy is, roping in the Nigerian government that it is your policy that devalued the Naira. But then, as you did to Aboki FX, now you are pushing it to us rather than acknowledging that your policies were wrong. Now, what I get to see in all of this is that it is sad that in a country like Nigeria, there will be a public investigation, and after that public investigation, there will be allegations of corruption flying all over the place. That is very, very sad. And to now imagine that this Agbese, the Philip Agbese, one of the person being accused, doubles as the deputy spokesperson of the house. The deputy spokesperson of the house accused of corruption. That in itself is very, very sad. And do you now imagine why people want to kill themselves to be in public office? Imagine that if Tigran Grambryan is not a foreigner, if he's a Nigerian, and the investigation as it was being done, he decided to bribe. Imagine that 150 million US dollars, if it had been paid, amounts to over 232 billion naira. So if you serve as a member of the House of Representatives and you can get those deals, just 2, you can get those deals just twice or thrice, you are already made. And that's why everybody wants to become an honorable, a minister, or somebody occupying an important public office. The time for us to begin to act right is now. The time for us to begin to get our priorities right is now. The time for us to begin to fight corruption in the true sense of it is now, if we want a nation that we can be proud of, and not only us, but our children unborn. It's been an interesting time with you on this episode of Politics with Dr. Omoshola Deji. Do want to subscribe, turn on your notification button, catch up with my past videos, and of course I have great interesting videos coming your way. Till I see you again, I love you all sincerely.
So we heard that some of the items they took from the Prime Minister, they are returning them. They are yet to send out any indictment. The one that we saw, I think last week, where they now said that it has something to do with a charge on the use of a name like Masters of Law, something like that. We understood that that is not true. That there's no charge like that. Maybe some nonsensical press inside Finland, those that hate us and hate our prime minister, working inside Finland, they are the one that published that, and we're told to just neglect that, because all of us were waiting on Monday for Finland to charge our prime minister for the Master of Law case. We didn't see anything, area of any indictment or anything, because we know our prime minister didn't do anything wrong. He is doing exactly what we are doing. All the killings that the Southeast and South delegitimized governors are doing, that is what our Prime Minister Simon Ekpa was preventing. That is what Nnamdi Kanu was preventing. And the whole world have seen how Finland took away our Prime Minister. And within that period, hundreds of innocent Biafrans have been murdered by Christopher Musa and Tinubu using the reintegrated terrorists that they imported into the Nigeria territory. That is what is going on. And that is something that Biafrans have risen up and said, no more. So we are still waiting for Finland to accuse our prime minister of anything. They've held our prime minister, going to almost 3 months, 90 days. He did not commit any crime. But from what Finland has done, we have now discovered there is a history of what Finland is doing to suppress Christians, to suppress freedom of speech, and to destroy innocent Biafrans using the globalist agenda, which Finland is part of right now. That is what Finland is doing. Prime Minister Simon Ekpa has not committed any crime. You put him away, now going to 3 months, because you partner with Nigerian state, a terrorist state that have very, very low score and record in human rights. Finland is now part of that. That is exactly what they are doing. How else could one explain holding our prime minister for almost 90 days without indicting him yet? You isolate him. You want to break him psychologically. And you think we are just going to sit down and watch you and your cohorts in Nigeria. Your cohorts in Nigeria, they will get it real hard. It's a promise. It's a promise. Because at the end of the day, we know this battle between Nigeria and Finland and Biafra, we are going to see how it's going to end up. So we heard that some of the items they took from the Prime Minister, they are returning them. They are yet to send out any indictment. The one that we saw, I think last week, where they now said that it has something to do with a charge on the use of a name like Masters of Law, something like that. We understood that that is not true. That there's no charge like that. Maybe some nonsensical press inside Finland, those that hate us and hate our prime minister, working inside Finland, they are the one that published that, and we're told to just neglect that, because all of us were waiting on Monday for Finland to charge our prime minister for the Master of Law case. We didn't see anything. And again, what Finland is doing is unacceptable. We have those innocent Biafrans that they picked up with our prime minister. They are still in bondage in Finland. Those innocent individuals can still not use their bank account, can still not get a job, can still not do so many things inside Finland. And some of them, they have their name on the terrorist list by the Finland government. How can you put somebody's name in a terrorist list and you've not even indicted that person as a terrorist. What country does that? You've not gone through the normal process of law. You've not proven that these innocent Biafrans, that they are terrorists. You, Finland government, you went and put the name of these innocent Biafrans under the terrorist list. Why should you do that? And you think the world does not know what you are doing? You think Donald Trump does not know what you are doing? You've not charged somebody as a terrorist. Now you put their name anywhere they go in Finland, anything they seek for is being denied because the Finland government has put their name on the terrorist list without even indicting them. How can we say the world, we want to make the world a better place, when we have country leaders that are criminals, criminalizing innocent citizens, and they are the heads of governments? And you think you will go free?
For people, as you're watching, don't forget to touch a hand for subscribe button, like and spread this message all over the world, and do well to touch a hand for notification bell. So that whenever we upload a new video, you'll be the first person to be notified. Don't go anywhere. Let's watch it unfold. Yes, an injustice for one is an injustice for all. Don't forget that our Prime Minister Simon Ekpa is on the way, coming back. No doubt. Let's go in there and watch it unfold. The truth must be preached. We must preach the gospel of Biafra. Yes, let's go in there and watch it unfold.
As soon as anybody believes, very soon our Prime Minister will join us. You know, in recent days, our Prime Minister have been restricted by the Finnish authority, pending the allegations that Biancolo brought to the Finnish authority about the killings in the southeast, which all these Nigerian terrorist governments cannot come and defend up to today. So I just want to tell Biafrans that they should be patient with the Finnish authority. The Finnish authority has not sold out. The Finnish authority are doing wonderfully well, and whatever they are doing it in our own favor. And I'll explain this to you. Now, you know, they've been weighty allegations over our Prime Minister, even from other European countries that I wouldn't want to mention their names. Those allegations was that if Simon Ekpa continues, that the whole, you know, most things that they use in Europe is being gotten from Africa, most especially Nigeria. So that Europe will be at tricks of this and at tricks of that and all of that. So what now happened was that when Biancolo wrote that petition, it was a very good time for our Prime Minister to be questioned. And so when they invited the Prime Minister of the Biafran Republic government in exile, which is Master Simon Ekpa, when they invited him, the Nigerian terrorist government kept sending petition upon petition that they should investigate him for the killings, for the deeds, for the that. And at the end of the day, Biafrans, I must tell you people this, the same Nigerian terrorist government has not been able to come to Finland, not even one person. And up to today, Biafrans, they have not recorded any crime that the Prime Minister have committed. But the reason why they are allowing this process to take effect is so that when our Prime Minister comes out, no country on this earth, not even Nigeria, will call them for anything again. Because you see, all the petition that was submitted by the Nigerian terrorist government cannot be defended by the same Nigerian terrorist government. So you could see that there's been a lot of manipulation, trying to manipulate. That's why they said, oh, bring him back to Nigeria so that we can try him. Because the Finnish authorities know that there is nothing like trial in Nigeria. Is just persecution that happens in Nigeria, just as they are doing to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu today. So they know all these things. Now, madam, my condolences goes out to you. And what the woman said that pained me, is that she has 4 children. One of those child is a boy, and that is the only boy that provides for the home. Where am I going to start from? And you see, so madam, and she was even telling me that if she wants our Prime Minister to come out today, that she cannot bear it, otherwise she will die. I said, madam, I'm not the one that is restricting him from coming to speak to Biafrans. It is the investigation that they must carry out to actually make sure that if he comes out, No country on this earth will call Finland, because he's a high-profile person in Finland, and they can't just overlook some certain things because the law works for everybody. Not like in Nigeria that the law does not work.